We all know that Reddit has some detailed answers because it's this chat forum. Everyone talks about the different types of insurance. And today we're going to go over the top 7 best, if I can count on my fingers, the top 7 best insurance companies according to Reddit. Now I'm going to go in and explain a little bit about each company and why they're good and bad for different scenarios. So the 7th and last place in this combat of insurance companies is a company called United Auto or Ocean Harbor. Now, be very careful with this one because I just recently did a video. I didn't actually finish making it, but they're one of the most complained against companies out there. So you're going to have a little bit of issues with customer service, but overall, they do high risks. That's why they're beneficial there. So if you have multiple DUIs, if you have a lot of tickets, if you have a lot of accidents, they're going to be one of the better fits for your scenario. So they're going to have young driver discounts, all those things, but they do have a lot of complaints. So they're going to have that as the negative. Their service is rated poorly. That's not anything I've created. I honestly don't know them that well. And this is what everybody's talking about with that company. So their claims process is slow. If you need somebody that's a little bit better than that, your next step up is going to be number 6, which is the General. The General is very similar, but less complained against. And they have some online options as well. So they accept high-risk drivers. It can be a short-term policy, so you don't have to have these 6 months, 12-month policies with them. They can do short-term insurance so that you can get your insurance going, kind of get your feet running, and just get driving. That's really good if you have a vehicle that you're not sure if it's going to run for 6 months. You got to get it going, and you might have a couple tickets. That's the General. They're going to be good there. Now, the negatives to the General is they are expensive for some of those coverage options because the shorter your policy is, that's just a higher risk that they take on. So you're going to have to pay a little bit extra for that benefit or that scenario. The other one is they have a little bit worse claims handling reputation. Not as worse as the other one we just mentioned, but they are in the bottom tier. It's one of those high risk things. It just falls in line with that. They do minimal coverage or minimal service on the basics. So you've just got a bare bones policy. They're not adding in the accident forgiveness options. They're not getting the unlimited towing that other companies do. You're looking for something inexpensive. The General is the one that you're going to look at. The third is Liberty Mutual, which is actually shocking because Liberty Mutual tends to be a little bit pricier in a lot of cases, but in right areas, right fits, they're going to be very competitive. They do bundling discounts, so if you have renters or home insurance that you have to carry, then those two together are going to be very beneficial. They have a ton of options. They have these optimum packages. They have all of these pieces. They own Safeco Insurance, which is also their competitor, which is really competitive on pricing. We've had really good luck with them. Everything's online. You can go to local agents. There are independent agents that work directly with them. So if you're looking to shop all of these carriers at once and not have to just do all the things yourselves, then you're going to want an independent agent. If you are looking for an independent agent, I'll put a link in the description below where you can request a quote from one of them, and they can start working on some options to see if there are some more competitive fits for your specific scenario. They're going to take your location, your vehicles, your history, all the things that would make up the insurance price and put that into that profile. And then they're going to take it and shop it with most of these companies to find out who is the better fit for the coverage, for the cost. Hopefully they're making recommendations. That way you have the options to choose from. Now, the negatives to Liberty Mutual is their premiums have increased pretty sharply over the last several years because of all of the things that we've had in the past videos. I'll link those at the end, but there's been a lot of changes. Prices of cars, the repairs, the time it takes, the rental cars, all those things have increased, the medical, all those things. And so their cost has followed suit. They're not afraid to raise the rate to make up for any lost income that they've had. The mixed reviews, because a lot of them are independent agents. If you don't work with the right independent agent who has you at the top of their list as far as what you need and what you should carry, then you're going to get just bare bones coverage. If you're calling a call center and they're just like, yeah, the cheapest thing is this, great, I'll buy it. You may not have the right coverage for a different scenario that you may fall into. Service quality can vary. They are, in my opinion, one of the best companies for service, but there's been a few complaints online, so you're going to have that as kind of the medium line as far as the service levels. That falls into the second largest insurance company, which is number 4, and that's Progressive. Progressive, I've actually listed several years ago as one of the top companies, mainly because they're innovative. They're always looking ahead, and they're trying to be ahead of any trend. Their technology's there. They offer the snapshot, which can get you a huge discount. They have a really strong tool belt, I guess you could call it, their Batman belt. They can use all these tools if they need them. And they're very competitive with a lot of scenarios. They're what I call an everyman brand. And that everyman brand is usually a fit for most people at almost any time. On top of it, they have competitive rates. They have broad availability, so they're in just about every state you can think of. The only thing that I found is people were complaining on Reddit that their prices did jump, although I didn't see that over the last couple of years. I haven't, at least in Michigan and in Virginia and Texas, all of the main states. We do about 12 different states, and I really haven't seen them go. Now they do slowly increment up. I've seen them 3% here, 5% here, which is pretty common. And then every once in a while, I'll see a 12% jump. That's a very small number when you're working with a major carrier that says 30%, 40% increase across the board. And then you're like, I don't know who to tell this to. At the end of the day, Progressive is very competitive. They're a good overall fit. And I'd say they're a really good option for you to think about. Now, the number 5 slot is the direct competitor to Progressive, and that's Geico. These two are the head-to-head. Geico is very competitive with low rates, has a strong mobile, all that, the tech stack is there. They're widely available as well, just like Progressive. The part where they fall short, which is the opposite of their commercial, according to Reddit, they said that they have lower service ratings than a company like State Farm, and you're gonna have a little bit longer of a claims process. So it feels impersonal. That's starting to change though. What Geico used to do, and this was a year and a half ago, is everything's direct. You go directly to Geico, they do it all. It's the 1-800 call center, like I just told you, there's just a person, or you're going online, filling out the quote yourself. That is impersonal. That is just directly to the straight point, give me the price, let me see if I like it, I'll buy it, hopefully it was the right coverage, and boom, I'm done. Now they're letting independent agents work with them so that you have that person that does shop all these companies can give you the right coverage and then look at the pricing to make sure that they are a good fit. They are less competitive with older drivers, so if you're doing that and with the multi-car policies, or if you have a home with them, then you may want to look at more of your Safeco, your Liberty Mutuals, your Nationwide, those guys who are super competitive with your bundling options. They're really good with young drivers, which leads into number 6, because I found these guys good with young drivers, which is State Farm. State Farm is that balance between affordability and having that direct agent support. And if you want to bundle, they even do financials, they'll do medical, they do life, and all of those things. Honestly, they push it a little bit too much. But at the end of the day, the major thing that you have is a strong network. They're the biggest company out there. They have a wide variety of discounts. They have a really good reputation. They sponsor the football teams that are winning. All of those things have gotten State Farm in a really good light. Along with that, there comes that baggage, which is they're not always the cheapest, which is very often. Their discounts depends on the local agent, so they get a direct agent instead of a independent, so they only sell the State Farm product, and so that might be limiting. The rates may not have a bundle, so they're very picky on the type of bundles that they do. And they do have some of that negative reputation lately because of the things they've sponsored with a lot of the political things out there. Not to say that these other companies don't have them, although most of them don't. I'll be honest, I don't see it very often. But I feel like I don't want to say that without saying they're huge, because they're so large. They are on the radar for a lot of these things. That doesn't mean that other companies don't necessarily have their own opinion and views. It's just State Farm gets seen the most, if that makes sense. And the top, number 7, is going to be USAA, although I don't know why Nationwide wasn't in here, because they are very competitive right now. But this is what you said, pros and cons. We got USAA, excellent customer satisfaction. They've been great with that. As long as you have a family, friend, military background, or family military, that's the way you get in there. You can't if you're not either in the military or government. They're restrictive that way. And there's a reasoning behind that. That's a whole nother video. They're competitive rates for military families, clearly, because that's all they focus on. They're financially strong, so they have a really good reputation. They have been really good, and they've been in the top 10 for almost the last several years as far as satisfaction. So they're one of the top companies, or at least have been. They've honestly been slipping over the last couple years. I've had a lot more complaints than I have positive on my videos with them, but in general, they're still in the top tier with companies. Overall, their downfall, you got to be some sort of military member or veteran to get with them. They have limited offices, so they are agents that only sell that product, but if you can pick up a phone, you're probably good, but they don't have them right on the base. Their rates do vary by state, and that's not always a benefit because some states spread that risk across the whole group. And because they're limited by states, there's a larger increase that you could see from that. Let me know what your thoughts are. Like I said, I thought Nationwide was going to be in here. Safeco is a little bit smaller because they're owned by Liberty, so I bundled them together. We didn't hear anything about some of the other companies. Let me know which ones you thought, in your opinion, because this is a Reddit post. This is what people's opinions are out there online to tell us who they think is one of the top companies and who they think is not one of the top companies. Which company do you think should have been in this list? If you are looking for insurance, I got the link in the description below. The main thing that you should be focusing on is the coverage, as we talked about. I've got a car insurance 101 that's going to go further in depth. If you're just looking for extra discounts, I've got a discount video here that will be helpful as well. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.